President Trump has all but guaranteed $2,000 tariff dividends for every American citizen who qualifies. We're going to break this down for you, talk about how this would be funded, who would qualify, would these checks spike inflation, is it politically motivated, and how and when money could be distributed. I'm Mike Malache with Pink Harbor CPA. I'm a certified public accountant in New Jersey. I'm here breaking this down for you step by step. So let's get at it now. President Trump posted this quote on Truth Social. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world, with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are our highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars, and we will soon begin paying down our enormous debt, $37 trillion. Record investment in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. That's pretty matter of fact. President Trump is all but guaranteeing the tariff dividend to every American citizen who qualifies. So first, let's talk about how this will be funded. President Trump, on one of his first acts when he took over the presidency, President Trump put huge tariffs on cheap crap coming from places like China and other places and countries that were not being fair to us. That's brought in a tremendous amount of money. The other thing that has done is that has also almost forced companies who were producing things overseas to now start to produce them in-house. And we're seeing that's almost day after day, a new company is breaking ground or making plans to break ground in America to move factories from overseas back over into America. That is a huge investment in our country. President Trump claims that there's trillions of dollars combined in tariffs and investments, and that is 100% absolutely true. Who would qualify? Well, remember, President Trump said that high-income people would not qualify for this tariff dividend. How do we use a litmus test to say who is high-income and who is not? Congress has pretty much already done this for us. See, Congress, in many different income limits where they phase out credits and deductions, has set this bar. I would think that Congress would probably go to the limit that's set for the American Opportunity Tax Credit. If you are single and make more than $90,000, or married and make over $180,000, you are fully phased out from getting the American Opportunity Tax Credit. I think those income limits would pretty much be the limits that will be applied here. So I'm looking for people who are single and making less than $90,000 to be eligible for the tariff dividend, people who are married and making less than $180,000 in their return to be eligible for the tariff dividend. Most likely, anyone who falls within these income limits would qualify. This even would include seniors that didn't file a tax return because they don't have a need to file a tax return. They would qualify for this as well. Who I could see being disqualified is dependents. If you have a dependent that is 18 years old or older, but they're owning your return, you're fully supporting them, I could see dependents being excluded from this. Now, this is just my opinion, but I think this is how, when we saw the first round of stimulus payments come out in early COVID times, dependents were excluded. I think we could see dependents being excluded again. They're simply not wage earners. Would these checks spike inflation? You're seeing a lot of junk out there where these so-called experts are saying these checks would spike inflation. Highly, highly unlikely. What are we going to use for the litmus test here? Let's go back to the early 2000s when we did the original stimulus checks. So we're looking 2000 to 2003. There was not even a blip of inflation being spiked. And you're going to say, well, Mike, I call BS on that because I know inflation spiked during COVID. You're 100% right. Inflation spiked during COVID, but that was when we were doing the most disastrous free money giveaway ever. We were giving money to people to stay home and not go to work. We were giving $600 per person and bonus unemployment money to stay home and sit on their ass instead of going back to work. That spiked inflation. That was terrible. We also saw all this PPP money going out the door and all these hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars of loans to businesses that wasn't needed. That spiked inflation. We're not expected to see that here. Is there a political motive to the tariff dividends? Probably 100% yes. What's going on right now? The Supreme Court is right now deciding, are the tariff dividends unconstitutional? Why are they deciding that? The Supreme Court is deciding, did the president have within his authority to increase the tariffs to the extent that they are without an act of Congress? This is going to be very interesting, because if the Supreme Court strikes down the tariffs, we could see probably as much as 50% of the tariffs that were collected going back to the importers. Will that ever be seen to the American citizen? 1,000,000% no, because the importer is the person who pays the tariff. That's who paid the tariff. Most people didn't see this as an increase in your bill because these importers had already made agreements with the stores that they shipped the goods to maybe a year or so prior to. So the importer ate these tariffs when they originally were happening before they could adjust prices to them. The importer is going to get the one who's going to get that money back. It'll never be passed on to you if a tariff is ever struck down. Here's the other side. Let's say the tariff is struck down. By the president talking about these tariff dividends, there's a lot of people who are on the side of tariffs. There's a lot of people who are on the side of bringing jobs back to America. There's a lot of people on the side of bringing manufacturing back to America. There's a lot of people on the side to say we shouldn't be able to buy cheap junk from Temu overseas. They're infiltrating us. If we see the tariffs go down, that's when I think we're going to see a negative impact in our economy. How and when would the money be distributed? Well, my opinion is that if the Supreme Court upholds the tariffs, we could see the money distributed probably within months of that decision. You're not going to see it before then because the money has to be reserved to go back to the importers if the Supreme Court strikes us down. How would you actually get your money? It would have to be direct deposit. The government has completely stopped giving paper checks. They will give you a direct deposit. If you don't have a bank account, you're going to get a governmental type of debit card, but a paper check that you can cash for a check cashing place is almost out of the question. It's not going to happen. I'm Mike Malachi with Pink Harbor CPA. If you're looking for an accountant to handle all of your tax and accounting needs or your business advisory services, please check us out on the web at pinkharbor.com or call us at 856-226-9524.